Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. I'm excited today to be celebrating the 30-year anniversary of HawkSoft with a discussion featuring a few of the longest tenured employees at HawkSoft. We have Darren DeFow, who's been at HawkSoft for 21 years. Hi, Darren.
Hello, great to be here today.
Cindy Frink, who's been at HawkSoft for 19 years. Hello, Cindy.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Anissa Newkirk, who's been at HawkSoft for 16 years.
Hello, everyone.
And Javier Torres, who's been at HawkSoft for 16 years.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, I could give them each a fun intro, but I really wouldn't do them so much justice here. So let's just dive into the question. And each of you will kind of go start off with Darren here. How long have you been at HawkSoft? Give a short introduction here. What's your experience prior to joining HawkSoft? And the most important question we generally ask everyone is, do you have any pets?
Awesome. Yeah. So I've been at HawkSoft for 21 years, working on year number 22 now. Prior to joining HawkSoft, I was actually an independent insurance agent. I worked for an independent insurance agency in Eugene, Oregon, who happened to use HawkSoft, which is how I was introduced to the program. And pets. Yeah, I have a dog, I have a cat, and I have a little water garden full of goldfish.
I have been with HawkSoft for 19 years at the end of October. And my experience prior to joining HawkSoft is I used HawkSoft and implemented HawkSoft from paper back in 1997. I worked in that agency for about 9 years. Towards the end of that agency career, I was managing 11 locations in the Pacific Northwest. And I have 2.5 dogs.
Okay, the half. Is it leg missing a leg? I mean, I used to work, I could say I used to work at a humane society as well. So, I'm partial to some animals that
I
have some
actually just
challenges.
adopted a dog
Okay,
2 weeks ago, and she is at my brother's house getting acclimated, and she will arrive here this weekend.
awesome. Awesome. Well, congrats on the new addition there.
Thank you.
Nisa, moving over to you. How long have you been at Hawksoft and what was your prior experience in pets?
So I just celebrated my 16th year anniversary at HawkSoft. I worked for a small insurance agency in Woodburn, Oregon for about a year and a half. Before I came over here, we also used HawkSoft, and I had a little bit of knowledge there. And I have a few pets. We've got a dog, 3 cats, Hamilton the hamster, 2 rabbits, 4 ducks, and 9 chickens. Not all
Okay.
chickens have names, but my favorite do.
Yeah, so I started at HawkSoft about 15 years ago. Prior to that, I was an insurance agent, and I was an insurance agent for about 10 years. When I left the insurance agency, I was managing an agency, one location, and I did that for about 5 of those 10 years or so. I do have 2 pets. I have a bulldog and a rescue. I guess I could say 1.75 pets because one of my rescue actually is missing a leg, and
Okay.
that's those are my pets.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, glad to hear all of you guys' stories about pets and everything. And it's also fun that each of you guys had a unique story about coming to Hawksoft or you've had agency experience. And I think that's one thing that always drives Hawksoft a little bit too. My ongoing joke, and not that I'm introducing myself or anything, but my ongoing joke when I present with Paul Hawkins is I was in an agency and ran the agency and I'd email him and my complaints. And so to get me to shut up, he finally hired me. And so I think we each have kind of that you came to work at Hawksoft different ways, and that's pretty awesome because it brings in that agent experience and gives some good clout to some customers as we're talking with them. We've kind of talked about our why or when we came to work at Hawksoft and things, but why have you been at Hawksoft this long? Back in the day, it was very common for people to start their job and be there for 30 years and such and retire from there. More so now, it's common for people to kind of rotate through jobs and have that growth and such. So, why have you been with Hawksoft for as many years as you have? Darren, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I actually have a unique story because I actually did leave HawkSoft about 7 years ago. And the purpose for that was because we were relocating out of state. This was prior to COVID. So I didn't really have an option to stay at HawkSoft. So I was kind of forced my hand to leave. Once I started in a new position in a whole new industry, I quickly realized that I missed being an expert. I've been in the insurance industry for multiple decades, and I do know it like the back of my hand. And I was entering into a new industry in the payments industry and really felt like a fish out of water and was having a difficult time finding real support to learn what I needed to learn. Meanwhile, we had a global pandemic that sent everyone home, and all of a sudden, HawkSoft, embraced that um, distributed workforce and decided to stay with it after we were all kind of coming out of COVID. So it was during that time that I realized that there was a possibility I could come back, and I deeply missed everything about HawkSoft as soon as I was gone, from the culture to the people to the way that we, take express care of our customers. You just don't find that in most industries, or even in many businesses in any industry these days. So it was a no-brainer for me to seek out the possibility of coming back, and it wasn't a long negotiation process, and I was back, and now I've been back for almost 5 years. So we kind of just don't take that year and a half out of my tenure, because I have been here so long. But yeah, it's an amazing place to be. The people are amazing, and it starts from the top with Paul and Sean and Jason, the rest of the executive team. They're here to look out for us. They're here to look out for our customers, and that's their entire goal. There are no other business goals except to take care of customers and the employees. It's a testament to the right way to build a business, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the growth.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Darren. Anissa, what about you? Like, what has kept you? What's the drive and your why that keeps going here at HawkSoft?
It's the people. I started off in customer service. I did a little bit of accounting training. I was a team lead, and then I became a department manager. Um, the people here are just amazing. When my husband passed about 2 years ago, I thought I was just gonna lose everything, but HawkSoft came together and my team rallied, and they surprised me with my managers came and gave me lunch and met me and my girls and gifts, and I'm not gonna cry right now. Sorry, but just HawkSoft is a great people, family. Um, I'm gonna move on to Javier. How about you?
There you go. There, I love it that you're calling him out. Javier, how about you there?
Yeah. So, for me, at any job, especially when I was younger, right? Any job, I always kind of had one foot out the door looking for some better opportunity. And, I was in the insurance agency for so long because they did provide that growth in that opportunity. After so many times you'd get licensed, and then then you would I became an assistant manager, and then, I was a manager of a location. So there was this progression of growth. And I knew that I always wanted to be in technology. And because I was learning insurance and technology seemed to be the best direction to go. And when I realized that HawkSoft was actually a local software company that was small and, kind of growing, I did want to join HawkSoft. And I had somebody who was at the agency who worked at HawkSoft. They left the agency to work at HawkSoft, and when the opportunity came up, I applied. I got the job at HawkSoft, and the growth opportunities just kind of kept coming. So over the years, I've gone to different departments, learned different things, and it's been kind of a nonstop growth for me, and that's really what has kept me here. Is there's always some at this point there's always some new challenge, some new thing that we're doing with technology, and that's exciting. In addition to what Anissa said, the people are great. You're encouraged to learn new things. You're encouraged to grow, and so that's really part of what's kept me here.
Absolutely. And Cindy, do you want to round out there and what's kept you here the long time?
Well, I will say through an immense amount of growth over the last 19 years, Paul and Sean and Jason's vision has not changed. core values of the company are just as strong, if not stronger, than they were 19 years ago. And, so yes, the people, the clients, my coworkers, but as somebody said earlier, it starts at the top. And I love that, you know, 19 years ago, I think I was employee 10 or 11, and now we're close to 200. And the focus and the vision has remained unchanged. And that's pretty amazing.
The company itself has grown and become successful. I mean, when I started, it was at a hangar at an airport, and it took me a while when I went to the interview just to even figure out like where is this place. I'm driving up and down this like lonely rural airport trying to find a software company, which is kind of weird, right? And now, we've seen that the company grow, and as Cindy said, the company has grown. And so I don't worry about like, hey, is the company successful? I know it is, and I know that those growth opportunities, are there.
Absolutely. We're going to touch a little bit on core values here in a few, but each of you guys came from an insurance background in an agency or whatever the case may be. And of course, I did as well, but I'm also I grew up in the family business and my family was in insurance, but growing up I was like absolutely not. I'm not going to be in insurance. No one wants to sit at the dining room table and ask about coverages or deductibles, and you say that you're in insurance and everyone like turns away and they're like, "Yeah, okay, gotcha. See you later." So, with that being said, there's so many opportunities in the insurance industry. I mean, we're sitting here talking about our tech company, HawkSoft. Obviously, there's underwriters and things like that. What did you do prior to insurance? What was that first job, or what was the job prior to insurance that got you here?
So for me, I was in, I did food service for years during college. I did a brief stint in the Air Force right after high school, and then got out of the Air Force and went to college, and it was food service. So I've done like every job in a restaurant that there is to do, except manage. My fiance at the time, who's my wife now, we were working together at the same country club, and her a friend of hers was an insurance agent, and that was kind of how they had an opening, and it was like, well, let's try something different. So um, that was my first introduction to insurance. I didn't actually ever get that job, but that was what turned me on to the insurance industry. And then um, I actually did a year and a half with Prudential doing property and casualty as my first insurance job, which was a complete failure. But that's what got my license and what introduced me to the industry. So after that failure, I went to an independent agency and was very successful there, obviously, and then from there to HawkSoft.
Awesome. Anyone else want to elaborate on their first job or the job before insurance, at least?
I did kind of odds and ends. I worked for a sewing company. I worked for Quiznos. I worked for the college. I graduated college and was jobless, and I could not get a job. I had got my associates in accounting and in office management. So I posted my resume on Craigslist because I needed a job. I needed something. And Tiffany Brown, who worked for the insurance agency at that time, reached out. We had an interview. She was 9 months pregnant, and I got the job. I had 2 days training with her at her office, and then I was sent off to go man the Woodburn office. So it was I, that's how I fell here, and I
There
wouldn't
you
look
go.
back because Tiffany left the insurance agency and then told me about HawkSoft and what a great place it was. And 6 months later, I followed her.
Awesome. But yeah, it's always funny to ask people about their other jobs prior to insurance. I mean, I've had a plethora of them as well. We kind of mentioned, Cindy, you mentioned core values. I mean, each of you guys really did. And what is an experience here at HawkSoft that you feel has encapsulated who HawkSoft is as a company? And maybe that's a core value. Maybe it's, something over the years. It could be something with a customer or whatever the case would be, but something that really just encapsulates who HawkSoft is.
When I was interviewing for the position at HawkSoft, my interview literally was a barbecue at Paul's house, and the entire family was invited. We were living in Eugene at this time, so it was a 90-minute drive from Eugene to Canby. I'll never forget. Um, something that Paul said in the very beginning of dinner before we even started ever talking about business. He looked me square in the eye and he told me, if you come to work at HawkSoft, your family, as he's looking around at my wife and my three kids, he says, your family will always come first. Always. It's the most important reason that we're here is because of your family. We want to help take care of your family. And that just struck me. Never have I ever heard any employer. It's usually the opposite. I mean, at the end of the day, it's usually the opposite. And when he said that, I knew right then on that first day, before I had ever even decided to definitely come and work for HawkSoft, I knew that there was something different here, something special. We had to relocate to move. To take this job, we had to move an hour and a half away, and I had a middle schooler who was entrenched. I mean, it was not an easy decision to make. But that statement right there, and then at the end of the day, they've stood by that statement. All these years, they've stood by that statement, and that is truly impressive and special.
Absolutely. You don't really get that. You guys have kind of each said something a little bit about that too, but you don't get really that family atmosphere at a large corporation. You lose some things when you start to grow. And I think that's something that's unique here at Hawksoft too over the years is, prior to COVID, there were less than 80 or around 80 employees. And then post COVID, you know, during the pandemic and post COVID here, I mean, we've been full remote. We're growing. We've added our new cloud product and things like that, and continuing to grow. And while there has been some challenges with maybe that family atmosphere, because you're not going in and seeing your family every day at the office, we still find ways to make that connection. We still find ways to still make sure that we are living by those values that Paul and Sean built years ago. So it's good to hear that, from the start, that's how you felt. And I could say when I joined Hawksoft, it was post COVID, but when I joined Hawksoft almost 3 years ago now, I was worried because I had worked in insurance in my own agency. I was my own boss for 22 years. I'm like, what am I doing going to corporate America? And I've known the family so much. And day one, it was like I really never, it wasn't something new because I felt right at home still, which was fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. Cindy, anything you want to kind of elaborate on there or something that's really an experience you've had here at Hawksoft?
So, a couple of things that I love about HawkSoft is that they encourage us to spend their money on other people. So, something that probably a lot of clients don't know is that we have an empathy program, and
Yeah.
we are constantly reminded, listen for opportunities. I'll hear, oh, you're having your toe operated on. I set a task in HawkSoft and say, send an empathy gift. She's having surgery on her toe. And then the hockey puck program, where we're encouraged to constantly listen and observe our coworkers in exemplifying the core values. And we're able to, reward them with a virtual hockey puck, which is worth $5. And, for me personally, most of my kitchen is equipped with things I've bought from the hockey puck store, but it's also really nice to say, oh, Darren helped me out with this download project, and to be able to reward him for doing what he would have done anyway, but it makes a difference.
I think a lot of our core values just kind of permeates through just the day-to-day grind. I know that there's a lot of times where, and I can think, and I know there's situations where we'll hear of some agency that, hey, this agency spent hours trying to fill out this form, and suddenly, things went sideways, and we will do whatever it takes to make it right if it means gathering, manually doing something, or staying after to do a thing, and we do that because we want to deliver the exceptional experience, and we're driven by that. It's not that somebody's telling us to do that. We're just driven by those things. And so that's what I think is unique, is that these are core values that are, they're delivered from our leadership, but we internalize them, and we use them, I think, every day, maybe even without realizing that we're doing that. We're driven by them.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk. I'm going to combine two questions here because as a former educator or trainer, I always, you start with a positive, go with the negative, end with a positive, and that sort of thing. Um, but we're going to leave out the first positive because we've talked a lot of positive things here, but no one really likes to bash a company or talk negative about a company or anything like that. But if you could have one thing that would say this is the worst thing about working at HawkSoft, and then obviously follow that up with what is the best thing about working at HawkSoft or a good thing about working at HawkSoft. Um, who wants to take a stab at that one first?
I would say that they're almost the same thing in my mind. So the worst thing about working at HawkSoft is that we have taken such care and kindness towards our agencies that we've kind of spoiled our customers a little bit, and they've come to expect that white glove treatment all the time for every little thing. So that's kind of it has kind of compounded over the years, and sometimes it equals frustration because that expectation is there. At the same time, the relationships that we have with our agencies and all of our users are directly because of that, and so therefore that worst thing is kind of the best thing as well. The 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 passion that we see for HawkSoft, the product itself, but even more so for the people, passion that we see that coming from our users is very unique. And all you have to do is step into a Hug conference just one time, and you'll experience that, as everybody here in this room has. But I honestly think it's kind of a double-edged sword, because we have really given everybody that white glove treatment, and we strive to do that. The larger we get, more agencies we have, the more difficult it does become to continue to provide that kind of white glove.
And it's growing pains. But I can honestly say in my couple of years of being here, and as much as we've grown over the last 2 years, really, what I enjoy is working with the Hawkins family or working with our team, our family here at HawkSoft in coming up with ways that we can help combat that a little bit. Whether that's moving some people around, shifting departments, or it wasn't that long ago we didn't have that customer success team. Now we have a customer success team that's helping follow up with customers and things there. So, they become innovative with some ideas and some challenges and say, okay, you know what? Yep, let's figure things out here. How can we combat this a little bit? But at the same time, we had a number of years ago, some issues with our product. And so we spent, what, 5, 6 years that, building the cloud product, and making sure that it was a product that was viable for every agency out there, and making sure that agencies could continue to grow and thrive. I can't tell you, through COVID, being able to utilize technology, like what we have here at HawkSoft and our e-signature platform and things like that, it makes your job seamless where you weren't sitting there in front of people anymore, having that personal in-person relationship. You now had a virtual relationship with folks. So I think it's innovative how HawkSoft has kind of met some of those challenges over the years too. Anissa, anything you want to add in there on, maybe that worst thing, but maybe the best thing too, or maybe combine it like Darren did here. So,
I think for mine, it's a me problem. I have a hard time checking out on my days off. I still will
Mm.
check in with the team or check my emails. It's not something my manager expects of me. I mean, she will actually tell me, "Why are you working right now? I need you to go home." Why? But I think the best thing is I love working from home. So I work 4 10s. I get to take my kids to school, and then I get to leave a little bit early to pick up one of them from soccer. My manager knows that I'm going to get the job done. If I have to leave early, I'll make sure, what I need for the day is done. She trusts me. And the opinions, the team wants our opinions. When we have a team meeting, no opinion is stupid. We want everyone's thoughts. We want everyone's, what are you thinking? How can we make this better? Always, looking for those solutions. So
kind of goes back to that family atmosphere that Darren mentioned. what Paul said when they first met at the barbecue and everything. It's, you know, you mentioned it right there. Your family is important. So they, you're allowed to do certain things to, be there for your children, and everything. And that's essential. So it goes back to why we're here. And we're here for our families to make sure that we can support our families and everything too.
The worst thing for me, and again, it's a me problem. One of our core values is work-life balance. But when you love the product and you love the company and you want to deliver for your clients or deliver for your coworkers, sometimes it's hard to just push yourself away from that desk at the end of the workday and say, you know what, I'll get to this in the morning. Um, but again, that's a me problem, and I think that HawkSoft has done a great job at hiring those kind of people
Yeah.
because I know looking at this room that all of us are that kind of
Yep.
person. So,
Yep.
and the best thing is honestly the relationships. I know if I'm having a bad day, I can call any of my coworkers. I can even
Mm.
call Sean Hawkins, and he'll take 10 minutes and listen to me.
Yep.
you know um, and the relationships with the clients, I love that I can work with clients all over the country all in the same day. I can have appointments with every single time zone, and learning from them. I came to work here without any commercial experience. Everything that I know, I've learned from agencies, so I'm learning just as much from them as they learn from me.
That's awesome. And we talk a lot about our customers, here, and that dedication that we all have towards our customer base. We want a product that's viable for them, that can work. We take things to heart when things don't work as proper as what our agencies kind of expect. But again, it goes back to really our values here in making sure that we have something for our user base. And again, it comes from the top down. Paul, Sean, Jason, when they started, from the bedroom, the airport hangar, and built the office and everything. That was what they were there for. They took it to heart, and it's not very many organizations out there that take customers' opinions to heart. You're out at a hug event, or you're out at, I get the luxury of, sometimes luxury is a strong word there, but traveling all over the United States for conferences and listening to, agents' opinions, users' opinions. And when I get to travel with Sean and Paul and such, listening to them explore the options of what are the pain points in an agency, or that little feature, that little button, why is it there instead of over here on the left side? And then that agency over there loves it on the left side, not the right. Whatever the case may be, you're listening. And that's one thing I've always taken back from, our leaders here at HawkSoft is they listen, they care, and they not only listen to us and care about us, they listen and care about, the users as well. And I think that's something that each of you guys are really, passionate about and see and hear, through your work as well. Over your tenure here at HawkSoft, what is a lesson you've learned that sticks with you? Something, maybe it could be that customer interaction. Maybe Paul Hawkins yelled at you or something. I don't know, but kidding. I hope he hadn't yelled at you, but, uh, but what is a lesson you've learned at your tenure here at HawkSoft that sticks with you to this day?
Something that we always say in on the product team is that I know that if you go to like Facebook, it can get really crazy there, right? People go on there and they express their negative opinions. But one of the things that we tend to say a lot is, there's always a cut through that negativity, and there's a nugget you can walk away from this interaction or from this information that you can take away. They're expressing some kind of frustration, right? And there's something that you can walk away with. And so that's kind of what sticks to me when people are expressing either frustration with how to use the product or some feature that isn't working as intended. And sometimes having that empathy to just empathize with them and understand their pain. But in walking away, there's always something that you can walk away with that you can use to make the product better. That I feel like that has been proven over and over in my experience.
Empathy, again, is a huge one. that change is hard, but you'll
Hmm.
get through it.
We worked very, very hard for many years to build HawkSoft 6. And when the first criticisms started coming in, our knee-jerk reaction was to be offended and upset. We didn't hit the mark. We missed it here. We didn't do this right. We should have done that better. And the natural tendency is easy to beat yourself up over that. Um, I actually had to. I was the product owner over the new integration with Microsoft Outlook, the new Microsoft Outlook. So over 2 years ago now, I actually had to upgrade to new Outlook, and I found that to be a brilliant exercise in empathy for our customers because new Outlook wasn't really finished. It certainly wasn't at parity with the desktop Outlook, which is kind of really where HawkSoft 6 was when we launched it. It wasn't finished. It was good enough to get out there with the intent that we were going to continue working on it, continue adding parity items to make it a parity. So I found that exercise to be really, really, really helpful for me. It made me really step back and pause before feeling that frustration. Um, but the process of migrating 2,500 plus agencies to a whole new platform has not only helped me with empathy, but also with just patience and just having patience with the process. Um, and I think I can look back at all of my career at HawkSoft and see that patience has always paid off. So practice the patience, practice empathy, and think before speaking. I think is probably some of the best lessons that I've learned.
Something I learned very early on was strive for progress, not perfection. It's not going to be perfect. Don't beat yourself up, but make yourself better, 1% every day. To piggyback on something that Cindy had said, changes, it's going to happen. And this last year, our team, our motto was pivot. We became really good at pivoting, and change is the way of the future. And so you just have to change with it and smile and keep going.
I think if your team was here or in the office, I say here, I'm based in Ohio, so you guys wouldn't be here. But if you guys were based in the office or something, I could imagine the wall beside you guys would have the image of the Friends episode where they're pivoting the couch. That's what when you said pivot, that's where my mind went. So that's what I could imagine the wall looking like over there. So
100%.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, I sincerely thank you guys for being part of this episode, and I thank you for your tenure here at HawkSoft. I get to learn from people like you guys, and I've gotten to know you guys over the years as I was an agent in the industry and stuff. And it's fun to come and work alongside you guys because I've developed those relationships over the years as well. So thank you guys. And I think that's a great place to land on this special episode of the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and for the best way to contact today's guest, click the episode description below. We appreciate you listening and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast.